Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the DFS Minute. I'm your host, Michael Rathburn, aka Rath. It is June 10th, 2015, Wednesday morning. Welcome into DFS Minute, RotoCurve.com. Hit me up on Twitter at FantasyWrath. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong, what you'd like to see, and what we need to keep doing. Appreciate all your support. It's been 2 months now. Talked about it the other day. Been exciting. Our growth has been much more rapid than we would have ever imagined. I know that sounds like a canned sales pitch, but it truly is. I mean, if you were to tell me that we would have 50 guys in chat on a routine basis and not during a live curve show, I would have said, wow, that's phenomenal, because we certainly had 5 or 10 guys in the beginning. Now we're knocking 50 or 60 out every single day. So only upward growth. Continue to serve the DFS community the way it needs to be served, and that's helping out the smaller stakes players sharpen their game, grow their bankroll, and give you insights on how to play daily fantasy sports. Let's get into what we had going on last night. Big game in New York with Chris Heston pitching a no-hitter against the Mets. Funny thing about Chris Heston, we were discussing him earlier yesterday in the chat room. And Seth Steinhauer, one of our members, was saying, "Oh, I think I'm gonna, probably stack some Mets." And I'm like, "Well, here's the thing: the Mets offense is really, really bad right now. Murphy's not in, Dude is not healthy. Obviously, David Wright's been out, so it's a really bad offense. But Chris Heston on the road hasn't been very good. So I was kind of like, well, I can't really recommend Heston, but boy, I surely can't recommend any of those Mets bats. You got to really stay away." Well, Seth ended up rolling with Heston last night and did well. So he basically said, because you trashed the Mets so bad, I ended up using Heston. So I did not recommend Heston. I can't take any credit for that whatsoever. But the fact that Seth did get influenced by what I said definitely shows that we do yield a lot of power. And I'm really glad that he did, because Chris Heston went out there, he threw a no-hitter. It was awesome to see. And Chris Young was flirting with a no-hitter for a little bit at that point too. So tough night on the pitching front. If you had Kluber or Keuchel, which I did, so that was frustrating, because we did hit on a lot of the bats that we gave you last night. Guys like Franco, Carrera, Miggy, Rizzo didn't come through. That was kind of the big one that I really needed to come through last night, and he didn't. And Jeff Baker kind of didn't really do much, but overall, it was a fun night. Really, for us at RotoCurve, last night was all about the Fantasy Aces head-to-head bracket challenge, where we had 16 guys going in eight head-to-head matchups. 16 guys going. It was a lot of fun, and it wasn't really about the money. It was about the competition, which is what fantasy sports should be about and is about. And it was a lot of fun. I did lose my matchup against Joe. I was in the lead for most of the night. I didn't have a great score. I did have Stanton with a double dong, but Kluber and Keuchel really did let me down. And then he got a late home run from Carlos Correa, who we did talk about yesterday as being a great play. So he got a Carlos Correa home run. That pushed him over the edge. The crazy thing is, most of the matchups, there were some blowouts last night, but there was actually one tie. And to get a tie on Fantasy Aces is quite a feat in a head-to-head competition. 2 guys tied at 49 each, so I guess we'll have to run like a tiebreaker, or maybe we'll just have to go with whoever had the highest scoring player. That's typically what we would do at Daily Joust. The way to break a tiebreaker is whoever had the highest scoring player, because those guys did have drastically different lineups, so it wasn't like they had the same lineup or huge duplication. So, but it was a lot of fun. We had 16 guys this week. We definitely want to grow it. We think we can get to 24 or 32. I think we can get to 32 next week, because we just had so much interest in guys wanting to do it. So a really cool thing that we're going to look to do, whether we continue to roll on Fantasy Aces or we roll over to Fantasy Score, which is another one of our partners, definitely going to have some fun with it. And like I said, bringing the fun back into daily fantasy sports in general, that's what it's all about. Tonight we should have a Fantasy Aces free roll for you. We will post that in the forum. We'll put that out on Twitter, but just make sure that any site that you sign up on through RotoCurve, click through our links, use our promo codes, because that's how we get credit for you registering over there. And we continue to provide you with the service that we do and the content that we can for free. So just be aware, sign up through our links, and that will definitely help take care of us. The other thing last night was Joey Votto with the triple dong. Stanton had a double dong, but the Votto triple dong thing was pretty cool, because Josh had mentioned that he was very high on Joey Votto earlier in the day, so a lot of guys were able to capitalize on that. So again, you're getting great insights here from the guys at RotoCurve. So definitely hit the forums and hit the chat room. There's a lot of content right now going up on the site, so it's really good stuff, and it's unique content. It's fresh content. It's not the same content that's being rolled out there every day with just your standard stale picks or standard stale format and statistics and things like that. It's really getting to the nuts of where you want to go for the day and getting into the insight, giving you behind the insight on why we like the guys that we like. Strange slate today. 4 afternoon games, and all of them are not good. I mean, it's just one of those slates. Stay away. As much as you guys are tempted to play, you've got a game in Coors. If you're gonna roll Carlos Martinez in Coors, Gio Gonzalez in Yankee Stadium, it's tough because you've got Scott Copeland going for Toronto. Aaron Sanchez is not going today. It's Scott Copeland versus Tom Kohler, so you can't take anybody in that game. Then you got the Coors game. Then you got Jerome Williams and Moscott over in Cincinnati and Philly. So the pitching slate is filled with landmines. So unless you really feel comfortable, my advice is unless you truly feel comfortable going with Carlos Martinez, whose price has dropped on DraftKings based on Coors, so it's like $7,900. So if you feel comfortable with Gio and with Carlos Martinez, and then you want to roll a lineup out there, you can go ahead and do it. But for me, no way. I'm not going anywhere near this afternoon slate. It's way too scary for me. So on the evening slate, Benny and Josh will talk about those guys in the Curve Show today at 12 noon Eastern. Matt Harvey, top of the board. You do get him at 10-7 on DraftKings, which isn't bad. We always like it when a guy's like 11K or less. When you start getting to 12, like Max yesterday, it becomes really tough to get value. So Harvey's 155 favorite at home against the Giants. Now, we did talk about the Giants yesterday, and I told you that I didn't like Noah Syndergaard yesterday, and I actually liked the Giants stack, and the Giants went out there and knocked them around quite a bit. The Giants on the road against right-handed bats are one of the best teams in baseball hitting perspective. So, from here, not to say that I was certainly going to use Harvey in cash games. I would not use him in tournaments because I think that there is potential they may have a subpar outing. And also the ownership is going to be pretty high. So not somebody I would use in the tournament today, but somebody I would use in cash games and feel comfortable. But just be aware that the Giants do have a lineup that does give people fits, right-handed bats. So while I do think Harvey's going to be good today, I don't think he's going to have a great performance just based on the strange thing that really stuck out to me in this game is the over-under the run total is 7. That seems very high to me. I would expect this to be 6.5 or even maybe 6 at this point. I know the Giants' offense is doing pretty good, but it's not known for having big boppers, and Hunter Pence is out. And it's not like Tim Hudson's a gas can. So I would expect that this number drops from 7 to 6.5. It's not going to go to 6. That's too extreme. I think this number drops to 6.5. There's some other numbers today in the late games that are very kind of head scratches. I think some of these numbers are very inflated. I know that over is hit in April. I don't know what happened in May. I think there was more of a correction, but a lot of these totals today seem like they're a half a run or a total run higher than what they actually should be. I look at D-backs and the Dodgers. That total is 7.5. Not to say that one should be corrected, but if you think about it, Hellickson, Anderson is 7.5. So we know Hellickson's starting to do okay. I mean, but still left-handed bats in this Dodgers lineup. I still think that as much as they've been struggling a little bit lately, I do, look at them, and I think there's still some value there. The interesting thing about the Dodger bats today is some of the Dodger bats prices have come down. Adrian Gonzalez is down to 4,200. He went down $800. I believe I saw Ethier came down. So look at some of these Dodger left-handed bats tonight. The prices have come down, and I think it definitely warrants taking a look at, especially against a guy like Hellickson, who we know can get blown up. And then also, it looks like some of these Astro right-handed bats have dropped against Quintana. I would have no problem rolling some of these Astros out there in a tournament today, all these heavy right-handed Astro lineups against Quintana. So definitely, like I saw Altuve dropped significantly. So he's at 4,300. Normally he's a 5K hitter against lefties. So just be aware that some DraftKings prices, I think you can take advantage of some of these prices today. Look at some of the history, look at the player cards. I think that we'll talk about this later on today. I'm going to start digging into some pricing changes today and see if we can find some value, because that's kind of what I did yesterday with a lot of guys I gave you. I looked at what they had going on over the last couple of weeks and where their price was, and I felt like there was an opportunity. I mean, obviously, Correa at 2.2 on FanDuel was ridiculous. That's just insane, especially at shortstop where there was really no one else other than maybe Peralta. And then a guy like Franco, who did have a tough matchup against DeScalfani, who's tough against righties, but he was so cheap and he's been so good, and he's at third base that he was at 3.1, and I really liked Franco on FanDuel yesterday, so he performed well too. His salary is still, I think, really underpriced. So, you know, that's really one of the keys in daily fantasy is how do you identify a guy that's underpriced? Well, look at what they've done over the past 5 games, past 10 games, past 15 games, things like that. What's the recent performance been? Where was their salary? You know, we have all that stuff over on RotoCurve.com. Just go into the tools, DFS tools, go to MLB, and then you start clicking on the player. You can see the salary history of the guy over the last few days. You can pick and choose which time frame you want. And that's where you're going to get, you know, a really understanding of, hey, is this guy overpriced or underpriced? Talked about Miguel Cabrera yesterday. He was higher priced on FanDuel than he was on DraftKings. So that's why I like him more on DraftKings. Also, you can play him at third base versus only being able to play him at first over on FanDuel, but he still had a pretty good night. But those are just some of the things that we like to get into and explain to you and break down, not just throw out the picks and tell you why this guy's a good pick, but really kind of get into the minutia of the pricing, of where the guy's at. Is this guy underpriced, overpriced? Should you play him in cash games? Should you play him in tournaments? You know, and that kind of thing. So that's kind of thing that we bring to you here at RotoCurve every day in the forums, in the chat, with our content, in our videos. So we'll see you back here at 12 noon Eastern today with Benny and Josh at the Curve Show. And as we always say here at RotoCurve.com, stay classy, DFS.